Lay off the stand-up comedy. Hi. My name is Oxley. My wife Diane is in the back, and my daughter Danielle also come to give me support. I'm a belt captain at Bally's, and I was at work the other night and having a mediocre evening, and some folks showed up. And they were just so vibrant and happy, and they just turned my whole day around. And we got to talking, and I found out who they were and what they were doing. And they were asking me, have you lived here a long time? I said, yes, I've been here 32 years, 20 of those years at that bell desk. And I said, in that magazine on the rack there, on page 63, there's an article about me, so I guess I'm pretty well dug in. And I found out what they did. So we started talking about cancer, and I told them the story of how cancer has touched the lives of my family. It started with my grandson, Joey, he came into our lives as a toddler. So we knew him since he was a baby, and he was ours. He was our only grandchild, and he was the joy of our lives, and he still is. And one day he got sick, and he went to the doctor, of course, and they ran some tests, and there was a tumor in his chest, and it was ALL. So he fought as hard as he could, and he seldom cried, and he never lost his sense of humor. And there were 8 of us, his parents, Damien and Shireen, my daughter Danielle, and her husband Michael, who we'll talk about briefly in a moment. I know we're pressed for time. And the grandparents, and the 8 of us became known at the hospital as the usual suspects, because there was always someone there. And throughout his treatment, there was always a lot of laughter and positivity, and we all felt very confident that he was going to go well. And we had found a donor in LA, and all he needed was the transplant, and things were going to work out. And then he got sick again. In the period in between, he was himself. He was being a total brat, bouncing off the walls, cracking us up. I mean, just a great kid. But it came back with a vengeance, and sadly, in about 10 weeks, he was gone. Fortunately, the night we lost him, as it was just dumb luck, all of the usual suspects were there, so we all had a hand on him, and it was sad to see him go, but I'm sure the hospital staff might have thought it was curious that as we were cleaning up his room, there was laughter, because we knew that's what the being wanted. So, of course, it was enormously sad, but you cannot discount the joy that came into our lives because of him. About a year later, I discovered a lump in my throat, and the doc says, keep an eye on it, and I did. And a year later, I went back for my physical, and he says, how you doing? Because everything was great, passed physical, flying colors. I said, Wendell, I still have this lump. And he looked at it again, and he says, Dana, you might have cancer. I said, well, why didn't you tell me that a year ago? So we run some tests, we do the fine needle aspiration, and it turns out I was stage 3 with squamous cell carcinoma on my right tonsil. This was Christmas of '08. And when we lost Joey, you ask a lot of questions, and your patients do. They want to know why. How could a just and loving God have done this to a 9-year-old child? And then when I got sick, I thought, it occurred to me that maybe the only reason he was here was so Grandpa wouldn't be scared when it was my turn. So I found a lot of strength in the being, and he helped me through. And I got to tell you, the throat cancer sucked. I had PEG tube. It's probably one of the worst treatments you can do. Had the PEG tube, ate through tube for 5 months. I lost my ability to speak, still a little raspy, and as you know, it affects your salivary gland, so I have water all the time. Again, I found my strength in him, and when I lost my ability to speak, Diane and I had trouble communicating, so one day she comes home from Walmart, and she got one of those dry erase boards, and she gives it to me, and I ripped the paper off, and I got the pens out, and I'm scribbling, and I turned it around, and it said, "You suck at charades." So, and Diane kept me alive, because at one point I was ready, I was done, and you know what, it was okay. You know, you just get to that point, and of course when I said that, she kicked my ass, and I'm still here. I was out of work 8 months, got back on my feet, and I was just the happiest guy in the world, and I still am, and I never lost that. When I got the phone call that told me I was sick with the first cancer, after I got done crying, of course, I turned to Diane and I said, "You know what? I'm not going to be laying in bed somewhere in 6 months dying, or in 6 years, or 60 years, saying, I wish I had that one day back that I pissed away feeling sorry for myself. I refuse to let that happen." And there are those days you get a little grumpy, you know. She could tell you better than I. But it worked well. So I got back on my feet and was back to work about 6 weeks, and went back for a checkup. And the doc says, "Dana, you have cancer again." And I said, "No, I don't." Because we become friends, and I thought he was just pulling my leg. And he says, "No, it's in your left kidney." And I said, "Well, is it this?" Because I knew if it was this and it decided to back up and go camping, that was probably it, you know. And he said, "No, something else. It's something new. It was renal cell carcinoma, totally unrelated." So we got that fixed with a partial nephrectomy, and my surgeon, Mike Verney's just, the guy's a genius. And Dave Foggia, the guy that did my radical neck dissection, is awesome. Because I've seen guests at the hotel that have gone through the same procedure, and they're not nearly as good looking as this one is. So I'm very grateful it turns out the ENT that did the neck dissection, his hobby is plastic surgery, so I just lucked out on that one. So I'm now back to work, and I'm just the happiest guy in the world. Although that was 2 Christmases in a row, both of my surgeries were New Year. Well, the first one was the day after Christmas, December 26th, and the following year it was the 1st of January. So Santa is on my shit. So all that naughty and nice stuff, you know, open for debate. This Christmas, I was looking forward to what I jokingly told my wife. I said, "You know what? It's going to be the 3rd annual Dana's Last Christmas, and I hope I have the 25th Dana's Last Christmas." But this, I understand some of you went to see Cirque du Soleil's Elvis last night. Who went? Did you like it? My son, Damien, is the head lighting technician for Viva Elvis. Danielle's husband, Michael, is the assistant head of lighting for the Beatles, Love, over at the Mirage Cirque du Soleil, you're going to see tonight. And Dane's... Why didn't you call me? Anyway, Michael, who's going to be lighting and everything that moves in the show, animations, is Michael. It's Danielle's husband. And he found out a few weeks ago that he has colon cancer. He went through the chemo and radiation, and he got his results yesterday, and it was kind of a mixed bag. So he's going back into surgery on Thursday to see if he needs a colostomy and what the future holds for him. But he also is just happy and upbeat, and he was there with Joey. In fact, he donated cells. We call them microlocytes to try and keep Joey with us longer. And you know, cancer is evil, and it's nasty, and it's vicious, and there's not a lot of good to it. I don't have to tell you folks that. It's your life. Sadly, it also becomes ours sometimes. But it's also a very good teacher. And I have learned so much about life and about death, and that it's not what we think. In fact, I don't think it's what any of us think. And I can't, I don't know why I got cancer. I don't know why Joey got cancer, or Michael, or my sister Karen, who was on her second cancer and getting the results of her 6-month scan today. I came here from my oncologist's office directly. I just had my appointment to find out how my next 6 months live. And I'm clean. When I moved here in the 70s, I was Red Fox's opening act, and I've been on stages all over the world and TV, and got a stupid little movie called Honeymoon in Vegas that was shot here. If you know where to look, you can see me in the movie. Now, I knew my motion picture career struck a new low, and I found I had never owned a copy of the movie. I do have one now. I found it for 25 cents at a garage sale. In any case, I don't know why I got cancer, or why any of us got cancer. What I do know for sure, though, is why I'm why I'm alive to bitch about it. And it's because of you guys. So here's what happened, and I won't take up too much more of your time, but when Samson and Bev and the gang showed up at Bally's the other night, I was just kind of having a mediocre night. And their smiles, their enthusiasm, it was infectious. I mean, honest to God, it just filled me. And, I said, well, what are you guys doing? A scavenger hunt? So they explained what the thing was with, the hotel. And we got to talking about cancer. And what I told them is really what I came here to tell you. And that is, when I got up that morning and went to work at Bally's, these guys were in Vegas, and they were running around with their paper, and they were excited. And I got up that morning, and I just wanted to go to work. And you kind of get lost in it, and it's easy for me and my coworkers sometimes, and I apologize, for us to forget how important it is to you, because some people save their whole lives to come here. To us, it was just going to work. And I know for you guys, especially the researchers, what you do is tedious. You're looking into microscopes, and you're staring at computer screens, and you're reading boring clinical data. And I'm sure some days you don't want to get up either. But I want you to know that there are angels on earth, and all of you sitting in this room are those angels. I can't see your wings, but I know they're there. And the reason I'm alive, and the reason that Joey was allowed to stay alive long enough for the Make-A-Wish Foundation to ask him what he wanted. He wanted to go to our family reunion in Ohio, and they said, well, you're going to do that anyway. Get something else. And Bean said, he thought for a moment, and he says, I want to see a volcano. So the Make-A-Wish people sent my son and his wife and Joey to Hawaii, and the day they landed, Mount Kilauea erupted, and Joey got to see his volcano. So the charity that you guys have chosen to donate to in his name could not be more appropriate. But if you could do one thing for me when you leave tonight or in the morning, is remember that on those mornings when you wake up and you don't feel like going to work, go to work. Because what you're doing is fine, and it's noble, and it makes a difference in the world, and especially in the everyday lives of people like me and Michael and Joey and my sister Karen. We count on you. We are alive because of you. So if you ever wake up and you just don't feel like going, please go, because it really does change the world. It's all right.